Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
Imagine getting a phone call and 46 years after your father's been murdered, they finally tell you that they've been able to solve the case. That's what happened with the family of Frank Body, who was 61 at the time in San Diego. He was a Marine Corps veteran, owned a little gift shop in San Diego, and they found him at the back of the gift shop on April 2nd, 1977. So since then, investigators have been working on that case, and they were finally able to solve it. And I've brought a couple of amazing guests on this morning to help describe that. But what an amazing, to me, it's just incredible that, one, as technology improves, that cases can be solved more and more often, and seemingly impossible cases can be solved. So and investigators just never give up. And that's some of the things that I think my two guests today will be able to really bring out. So welcome, Suzanna Ryan, a good friend of mine. She's with Ryan Forensics and also Pure Gold Forensics in Southern California, which do amazing work. I can't heap enough praise on those guys. And then Tony Johnson from San Diego DA's office, lead investigator there, and first time on the show. So welcome, Tony.
Glad to be here.
And Suzanna, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to see you. Known both of you guys for a while now, so it's great to see you, even if it's over the internet. So good to see you both.
Yeah. So Tony, let's start with you. Did I describe, kind of bring the case in accurately?
Oh yes, you did. This was one of our oldest unsolved cases, and we were very happy to get it resolved. And unfortunately, the suspect was deceased, so there's not much we could do as far as prosecution, but we still brought closure to the family.
That's fantastic. So let's start with Frank Body. What do you know about Frank?
Well, Frank was the kind of citizen that I think we all want. He was a World War II veteran. He served in the Marines. After that, because he liked San Diego, he came here. He opened up a gift shop in College Grove. College Grove was one of the first shopping centers in the area. It opened in the 60s, I think. And in 1977, he worked his gift shop. He was active in the community, and he was a Shriner, and just all-around good guy. He had a family. He had 2 daughters and a son. I can't say enough good things about that man.
Frank, in the news article, his name is Frank Body. Is that correct?
That is not correct. His last name was Botts, Botts.
Okay, well, geez, in doing research on this, number one, I only found one article, and that's crazy that, a case that's 46 years old that you guys solve, and, a murder of an upstanding person in the community, and they don't get his name right. What is that all about?
Well, you have to talk to the reporter on that one. We got his name right. That's all that counts. Okay. Maybe it's a typo.
Yeah. Well, I apologize for that. Frank Botts. So let's start over with honoring Frank. So tell us a little more about what happened and where they found him.
Well, like I said, Frank was a entrepreneur. He opened up a little small gift shop in College Grove. College Grove was one of the first shopping centers to open up in the county. And he was working in his shop, as he often did, on a Saturday afternoon, April 2nd, 1977. He frequently there would just be one person in the shop. And he was last seen alive about 1 o'clock in the afternoon talking to a customer. That customer was described as a teenage African male. About 30 minutes later, a customer came in, did not see anybody at the counter, eventually went back to a back storage area where they found Frank's body. He'd been stabbed to death.
And how many was it? Like multiple stab wounds?
Multiple stab wounds. It looked like he put up a fight. There were other indications of a struggle in the back room. Boxes were tipped over. The cash register was open. Cash was missing. Cash was missing from Mr. Botts's wallet. There was a bloody fingerprint on the one of the checks that had just been written that day. And the interesting thing was there was a small hat. And apparently what happened was the suspect had gone out the back door. There was like a service corridor that was only supposed to be used for employees. And apparently the suspect or suspects exited through that back corridor. And in the process of exiting, they dropped a hat. That was the significant forensic evidence in the case.
So when you say a kind of a rare small hat, describe the hat?
Well, it was similar to what you might see a golfer wearing in the 1930s. They call them various names like a derby hat, a golf hat, a tam hat. It was a rare hat. It was only sold in one outlet in San Diego. And the homicide detectives spent a lot of time following up on the hat, hoping that that would generate some kind of lead, but unfortunately it didn't.
Okay. So the fingerprint that you said that was on the wallet, that fingerprint led to partially, is that the fingerprint that helped solve the case?
No, it wasn't. Actually, we were unable to match the bloody fingerprint to anything. However, there was another fingerprint on a glass counter at the back of the shop that in around April of 2021 led to an identification of a man named Norman Jones.
Mm. So based on the crime scene and everything, I know here you are 40 some years later, you're looking at this case. And so you're just looking at a file. Describe to me what you think actually happened in there. I mean, the young man comes into the store and probably just with a knife starts trying to hold up the store.
I'm thinking it was a robbery. A young man came in with a knife. There was a confrontation. Somehow it led to the back room. Mr. Botts put up a struggle. He was stabbed to death. And then the perpetrator took whatever cash he could take. He did not take anything else as far as credit cards, checks, anything like that, just cash, which would indicate kind of maybe a younger or less sophisticated offender.
Yeah, well, number one, as a World War II Marine, I'm sure Frank was tough as nails, and he was like, "You're not taking my stuff." So,
yeah, well,
I know that's what I would have done.
Yeah, he was 61. I used to think that was old, but now that I'm past 61, all of a sudden it sounds really young. So hopefully he put up some kind of a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it also just shows you how sad that is. I mean, who knows how much this kid actually stole, but probably wasn't more than a couple $100. And
if that,
especially in 1977, I'll bet there was, less than $100 that was available to him. And, to actually murder somebody, that's just beyond sad. But well,
also you have to know too that the fingerprint only proves that Jones was in the customer area of the store. And that wouldn't hold up in a court of law. What we really wanted to do was get some DNA off that hat. And that's where Suzanna came in with her equipment and her expertise. And that's what really sealed the deal when we were able to find this man's DNA inside the hat, which had already been tested and nothing came of it.
So when you say it had already been tested, you mean it had already been swabbed multiple times? And
yeah, you got to remember, back in 1977, there was no such thing as touch DNA.
Right.
What they were hoping was they could get a lead through publicity. Hopefully an informant would call in or somebody and say, hey, I know who has that hat. But in 2004, touch DNA was just coming into being and they tried swabbing the hat, and unfortunately they got nothing. So they kind of tossed that aside and gave it up. But nowadays, in 2021, there's a MVAC, and that's what got us over the hump on this case.
Okay, well, Suzanna, that means the spotlight's on you. So tell me about when Tony first calls you and tells you about the case.
Yeah, so this was a couple of years ago that Tony gave me a call and said, hey, discussed the case with me, talked about the evidence, specifically this hat, and, really felt like it was related to the crime because of where it was located. So, think, okay, this is a really critical piece of evidence. And he did tell me at that time that testing had already been conducted, and, so we talked about that. Well, when was it done? Because things are changing so rapidly, and this was in 2004. So we have a couple of things going for us. One, we can use the MVAC, which, as we all know, is going to collect more DNA than just swabbing alone. And then, a number of years have passed, so we have greater sensitivity in the testing kits, in the instrumentation being used. So of course we had a better chance of potentially getting results. So Tony brought the hat into me at my smaller lab, which is called Ryan Forensic, where I just do MVAC collection. Basically, I do some serology as well, so body fluid testing, but mostly just MVAC collection. Just offers another facility, and Tony liked it that at the time you could just drive up from San Diego to Carlsbad and not have to put that piece of evidence, that critical piece of evidence, in the mail. I think that always made Tony feel a little bit better to be able to personally, personally hand it off. So, all right. So then got this item and took a look at it, and it didn't necessarily surprise me that not a lot of DNA was present, because, or especially with swabbing, because my recollection is it was sort of the material on the inside of the hat was sort of like a if I recall correctly, more of a like silkier material, smooth, really smooth material. And so I looked at that, and actually, one of the first things I always do is I'm going to photo document the item and just visually examine it, right, before I just start MVACing. And when I did that, I did also locate a hair, or called it a possible hair at the time. And then I looked at it under a microscope and determined that it was a human hair. So then I MVAC'd it, and trying to focus on the interior brim of the hat, where someone wearing it, their skin or sweat, something like that's going to come into contact with that hat. And then the MVAC filter itself, I transported up to Pure Gold Forensics in Redlands, where I'm lab director and DNA analyst there. And we are an accredited forensic DNA lab. So that's where I performed the DNA testing.
So how long till you got results?
Well, we have a standard 30 business day turnaround time. So I'm not sure exactly. I can look at my report here. Let's see.
While you're looking that up, it's interesting. And Tony, you probably have all sorts of experience with this. When you take it to a private lab like Pure Gold Forensics, and again, I'm gonna brag about you a little bit here, Suzanna, because I've had multiple people tell me just recently that their experience with Pure Gold Forensics is top notch. They said, you guys' philosophy that you have one person all the way through the one case, so that it's not like you hand it off to the next person who does the next step and on. It's like you have one person that's the point of contact throughout the entire case. And I just think that, number one, that gives you more understanding about the case, and it becomes a little more personalized maybe. But, the important thing is investigators like Tony, you don't have to like track down who the person is and who did the last step and to me, it just simplifies things, but it also just makes it so that I imagine it's even faster than other private labs. I don't have any, that's all anecdotal, but what I do know is that private labs like you guys can turn things around so much faster than a public lab. And when you have not only that ability to turn things around faster, but also you have all the latest and greatest equipment, including the MVAC, to me, that's just, yeah, it's more expensive and you actually have to take it out of a different budget. But on cases like this, to me, it's just absolutely worth it. So I like I said, I send a lot of people to Pure Gold. There's a few other labs that I recommend all the time, but Tony, you definitely picked a good one.
Yeah, I'll take credit for picking Pure Gold. Not only that, but we've had some really, I think, especially with the MVAC, I've come to learn that, anybody can work a shop vac, but there's just some kind of expertise that you get. And I just know that the results are better at Pure Gold than they are at other labs. I don't know. I think it's just maybe she takes a little bit of ownership of the case. I like to think maybe it's because she likes our cases. But in any event, we've had some very good luck with Pure Gold, and we're happy to use them.
Wonderful. That's awesome to hear. That's definitely what I want to hear. Yeah, we do try to be, that point of contact and answer any questions. And I think that helps us get a better understanding of the case. And, sometimes we'll work a particular sample and maybe, I just had a case. It was very bloody and you try to avoid the blood, but male victim, male suspect, all I'm seeing is a single source profile. But instead of just saying, oh, that's it, we talk with the investigator. Hey, I found hairs on this shirt. Maybe that's something to think about. Was he wearing jeans? This is a body that they think was picked up and carried. So, okay, well, let's look at the jeans, so we don't have to just give up. And so part of that is just being a little bit more proactive in talking with the investigators and trying to find out a little bit more about the case. And yeah, we do, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Not everything goes perfect the first time around. And we try to talk with the investigators and say, hey, I think I can get better results. I might need a little bit more time, but I think I might be able to get a better result if I try to do X, Y, or Z. But typically it's 30 business days. And in this case, we got the sample on September 4th and the report was out on October 7th. So 2021. So, we did get the results fairly quickly for Tony, and it wasn't a complete profile. It was a partial profile, meaning we did not get results at all loci. It was a little bit of a mixture, but we did have enough to do a comparison. And luckily in this case, there was a suspect. It was the suspect with the fingerprints that were left behind that, could have been from a customer. So we need to find that out. Is that just coincidentally present in this public place, or is it associated with the crime? So that was great to have that suspect standard to be able to do a comparison.
Thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.